Good afternoon, everybody. This is BDF44 coming at you. I want to talk about the Hawks today. And the reason why I want to talk about the Hawks is because no one talks about them, quite frankly. And I think they've done some really good things for themselves. I took a glance at their roster. Obviously, you guys know I'm not a Hawks fan, but I do try to pay attention to the league to some degree, so that I can be, fairly knowledgeable of the opponents that the Lakers will face. So I try to, just try to be a little versed in everybody. But the Hawks are a team that no one talks about, obviously, and it's kind of hard to get a hold of them because I'm on the West Coast and I don't, they're never on national television, so I never see them. So I have to preface my video by saying I don't really watch the Hawks. I never really paid much attention to them in this era. But this is what I want to say. In my limited knowledge, I have been watching the moves they've been making, and I think they've done some good things for themselves. First of all, just starting with the smaller moves, I like the acquisition of Evan Turner. I like them taking a chance, and I know nobody's going to agree with this, but taking a chance on Chandler Parsons. I think at the role that he's in, when he's at the back of a bench, you could stand to do a lot worse. And I think this guy has had ample time to not only get in shape, but to adjust to his new body. Because like Gordon Hayward, he was also one of those players that really relied a great deal on his speed, his ability to slash, his ability to to kind of play above the rim a little bit. And when he went down with all of those injuries, it was a wrap. And then from there, he went on to sign some horrible contracts that were great for him and his family, but horrible for the franchises that he was a part of. And he couldn't live up to those contracts for a bunch of reasons that I'm not honestly sure of and couldn't speak on with any honesty. But the reality is, if I'm just looking at how long it takes a guy to recover, and you guys know I think like this, I always try to put myself in a position to understand that conditioning makes a difference. And I'm looking at that situation and I say, if I'm going to take a chance on Chandler Parsons, he's about 2 or 3 years removed from the catastrophic injuries. He has a whole summer to get in shape coming off of whatever it was last year. He's on a brand new situation in terms of his contract being developed to a point where somebody else will want to take it. He's in a winning situation, in my opinion, because I think the Hawks are close to a playoff team, if not a playoff team right now. And he's not in a situation where he's asked to play hardly any minutes. He'll be lucky to get off the bench, to be completely honest. So when you just talk about small moves and moves that are going to make you better, moves that nobody's paying attention to, things that could help, I think there's very, very low floor for a guy like that. But it's also a pretty decent amount of production that you can expect if he gets right. And most importantly, he's the type of guy where if you get riddled with 100,000 injuries, he's somebody who has some experience in this league playing at a high level, somebody that people have believed in him once before, and now he has a reasonable contract that can help him be a serviceable role player. So I've probably spoken too much about Chandler Parsons, but I think he's one of those guys where while you're not looking, he could have a better season than he's had over the past 5 or 6 seasons. So I think that's a possibility of that. Jabari Parker, same thing. Almost the same thing. Couple years removed from really serious injuries, had to get used to his new body. Now, if you paying attention, should have had enough time by now to make the adjustments and get in a little better shape and all of that. I think it's a good time to pick up Jabari Parker. So I'm looking at that. I say, okay, I like that. They had to absorb the contract that the New Orleans Pelicans had, which I want to commend the Pelicans for getting rid of that contract. God, what's that guy's name? I just saw his name and it slips my mind. But he's also a serviceable power forward, small forward combination who can help the back of their bench. Basically, the moves that I'm seeing the Hawks making are good bench moves that can help you improve when guys sit down. Trae Young, to me, showed me that he's going to be very, 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 very productive going forward. Now, the question for him will be his size. He's not going to be able to guard people, but we've seen so many great players not play defense till that doesn't really bother me, especially with somebody that small. But he's a high volume scorer who can shoot from 45 feet. He can shoot from damn near the half court line. And he's also unafraid. He reminds me a little bit of Allen Iverson in that regard. He will jump into the paint, take contact, and really try to break you down with his ability to dribble the ball. He also is a very gifted assist man, who takes pride in running the offense. So I think when you look back on that trade, yeah, should they have kept Luka Doncic? Maybe, but this is one of those situations. I almost view this one like Vince Carter, Anton Jameson. Like, you're happy either way. Yeah, that trade was made, but you're pretty much happy either way. Maybe even better than those two in some ways. But in terms of their roles on this team, on their respective teams, very early. But nevertheless, just moving on. John Collins, I think, is a player that's pretty close to all-star level. In fact, I view him as one of those guys who's going to make multiple all-star teams. It just hasn't started that yet. But he's legitimate. He's a strong starting power forward in this game who can do a lot of things for you, and is still growing, and his upside is pretty damn high. So I'm looking at that, and then I look at the rookies that they picked up. You guys know I've never was big on DeAndre Hunter at the 4 pick in the draft, but I loved him for Atlanta. And if you check out my video, you'll see that I had him going no further down than Atlanta when I was talking about my mock draft, which was totally botched. I had Bol going to Cleveland at 5th, and we all saw how that turned out. So I couldn't have been more wrong, but at the same time, I did have the right idea about where a couple of the players were going to end up. And my mind told me that DeAndre Hunter's best landing spot was the Hawks. So in my opinion, that's a fantastic fit. He slips right in, and he's going to play defense, and he's going to score, and he's not going to be asked to be a first option or a second option because of Collins and, of course, Trae Young. But I do think he has a chance to be their third best player. And then I saw some other moves that they made were pretty good too. So overall, I just wanted to touch in on the Hawks. Like I said, I don't watch them. I'm not a fan of in any kind of way, but I think it's important when people consider the NBA that they try to touch on markets that nobody talks about, because that's how you find the players in this league that are affordable, that can help your team. You look on these little small market teams like Orlando and Atlanta, and you want to pay attention to the Sacramentos and the Phoenix, because a lot of times they have guys on the back of their bench that can help you, or guys that you may want to spend mid-level money on who are ascending talents. I would love for the Lakers to get a hold of John Collins right now. I would do anything for us to be able to get Trae Young right now, obviously. But, I mean, to a lesser degree, I wanted us to have Jabari Parker, So I think that's going to be the thing. I want to start paying a little more attention to some of these teams that I don't pay a lot of attention to, particularly on the East Coast, and try to make videos just giving them their props and trying to learn a little more about them. So I'll admit I have plenty to learn about the Hawks, more to learn than to share, but just wanted to give you guys a little shout out and say that I see you on the rise. I don't know if I'm ready to say they're a playoff team this year. I don't know. But I will say they have the potential to be the surprise team in the East. They have that potential. It can go one way or another. With young players and new players and all that, it can go one way or another. But if I'm looking down the line at the teams that I would say, okay, they have a chance to make the playoffs. The Hawks look like a team where it could really work out. It could work out for them this year, and they could really find themselves in the mix for a playoff spot, or hell, maybe even a little better than that. Looking at how great Trae Young's first season was, and how much I believe in Collins, and how weak the Eastern Conference is.